So we're going to take a look at using a union to put together two queries. And we're getting close to the end of using select statements to extract information from a database. And we're going to move on to some other things. But anyways, we need to still finish up a couple of things. And we're going to use the Sequila database to do this example. And in preparation for doing this might just give you some hints on how to do some things with that database and get some practice in. I did a Google search for Sequila, and when you do that, actually, let's just show you what happens. Of course, this is Google searches will change. Well, you get the spinning wheel of death. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so you get this link that tells you all about Sequila, and what I went to is the structure link. And in the structure link, you get the schema, so you get this nice map of the database. But if you're looking for more detail, you can actually click on this link tables, which I did, and then I went out and in tables I extracted from that. I went to the actor table and the film table, and those are the two tables I'm going to use. And from there I was able to get some more information about those tables, enough to piece together what I wanted. Alright, so just as an example, I'm going to print some stuff out from the actor table, the first name and the last name. And then here is a little command. I want to do a union between actors and films. Now, why I want to do this? Well, I guess just to have an example. But to do a union, you have to have your columns be of the same data type. So actors have an ID, films have an ID, they're integers, that's great, those are the same. But actors have a last name and a first name, whereas films have a title. So those are different. I need for actors to have one string representation for the name. So what I decided to do is just put their first name and last name together. And the way you put two strings together is called a concatenation. And we've seen concatenations, if you've done other programming languages, they all have some version of concatenating strings. So in MySQL, it's concat. So I'm going to put the first name, a space, and a last name together. Then that will give us one column for name. And then I'm going to show you some films and titles. So I've run this. And here's the output of that first select. And we have a bunch of actors in here. A lot of people that I don't know. So I think maybe, I don't know how they came up with these names, but anyways, so a bunch of actors. And then, so this is by first name and last name. When you do the concat, then it just puts their names together with a space in between them, and then gives us this really sort of not brilliant column title. Hopefully you know how to change that column title. That was the content of a previous video. Now, so we've got films and, films. So here is a list of films from the Sequila database. Okay, not that exciting. Great. And now what I'm going to do is take a union of these two things. So what this is going to do is it's going to take this list of actors and actresses and films, and since these columns have the same format, actor ID, film ID, film. I need to be looking at this one. Actor ID, film ID, both integers, and then the concatenated name, so a string and a string. So since those have the same type, we can take a union of those two tables, and basically what we're just going to do is merge them together. And when you do, you get this. Now what I'm seeing is a bunch of film stars here. Somewhere in here we should see well, there ought to be a film in here somewhere. Where'd it go? Well, let's go down further. There we go. So those look like film titles. Terminator Club. I'm not convinced that there's an actress or an actor named Terminator Club. So now we're into the movies. So it just took those two lists and put them together in a union. And do you remember how to change the name of this so that it doesn't print out the concat first name, last name? Now there's two columns that I had to choose from here. So in the actors, we had this concat first name, last name business. And with the film, we had title. So notice that in the output, what we got was concat first name, last name. That's because MySQL is going to change or select, the first title that you give it. So in this case, it chose that one. If we swap the order of these and made this film ID title, and well, you can just do it, right? Probably quicker to just do it than talk about it. It's quicker if you can type. So if we change the order of these, then this is going to change to title. Or is it this one? This one. It's going to change to title. But so it's just going to choose the first one there, but that's not really sort of the most brilliant way of having your columns named. So just remember that you can change the name of your columns by just using the as qualifier. So I'm going to change this to as name, and I changed the title to as name. It doesn't really matter. It chooses the first one, so I could have just used as name here. And when you do that, you get name as the title of your column. All right, so union just puts together the output of different select statements. Now, the one I've chosen to use, maybe not the most brilliant application, but I can think of a good application. For example, on campus, the campus we're on, we use a program called WebWork. Students that have had math classes have nightmares about WebWork. And WebWork uses a database underneath it, and actually a MySQL database. And that database, for each section that uses WebWork, has its own table. So as the network administrator for WebWork, if I wanted to send an email to all the students and say something like, hey, WebWork's down, give me a few minutes, I'll bring it back up, then because each class has its own table, what I could do is do a union of all the tables that were currently active for the semester and do a union of all those students with their email addresses and use that to send an email to all those students. So there's one example where you might use union. I think for obvious reasons, I didn't use that example in my code here. All right, so there we go.